What does Puff the Magic Dragon have in common with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds?
Christmas.
Lee.
Are they both about drugs?
They're not. A lot of people think they are, but neither is. Do you know Puff the Magic Dragon? Do you know the song?
Puff the magic dragon.
He lived by the sea.
Lived by the sea.
And wallowed in the land of France Lee.
Oh, very
Puff the magic dragon.
No, very good. That's excellent.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the song. Yeah, it's based on an Ogden Nash rhyme called "The Really O Truly O Dragon," and it was a Cornell student, Leonard Lipton, and he gave it to his friend Peter Yarrow, who wrote the song. And Peter Yarrow tells us quite specifically, even if I'd had the intention of writing a song about drugs, which I may have had at a later time, I was 20 years old at Cornell in 1959. I was so square, as was everyone else. Drugs had not emerged. I know Puff was a good dragon, would never have had drugs around him. Now you've heard that from the mouth of the dragon's daddy. It is not about drugs.
He thinks he's the dragon's daddy.
Yeah.
And he's not on top.
There is that.
It was going well until the very end.
Do you know the official story of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds?
Yeah, didn't Julian come home from playgroup with a picture? Julian Lennon, that is,
Yeah.
and they said, what's this? And he said, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Brilliant. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
The
Well,
very
you've written
tiny-
the old song.
No, he'd done a painting.
Bloke upstairs going, that's my job!
It's done a painting!
Get me a pen!
Christ. No, he'd done a... Little Julian...
I've got Lucy up here!
Oh, God. Little Julian had painted a picture of a girl surrounded by stars, and it was his friend Lucy in playgroup. And John said, what's that then? And he said, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
That was the older brother that spoke like that.
Yeah.
We've been through it.
And,
Julian, what for
yeah, according to interviews with Lennon and the other Beatles, they didn't notice that the initials spelled out
LSD.
yeah. Until after the record was released. Doctor, doctor, I can't stop singing Auld Lang Syne. So the doctor says, I'll have to send you to the Burns unit.
Very good.
Now, what's wrong with that joke?
Is it absolutely terrible?
Yes, see. Now, any other thoughts? What is all
Well,
right?
no, of course it's not, because Burns Night is not on New Year's Eve, is it? It's on, when is it?
25th of January.
Yes.
Yes.
So, of course, you wouldn't be singing Auld Lang Syne and Burns Night. You'd be singing it on New Year's Eve. So
That's true.
you'd be waiting 3
But
weeks.
most people think that Auld Lang Syne was written by Robbie Burns. And, yeah.
Old Lang Syne wasn't even written by Burns.
That's right. Although a lot of members of the Burns Society believe he wrote it and say that it's nonsense he didn't, he himself said he didn't. He said it was a traditional song that he wrote down.
Really?
Yeah. Auld Lang Syne first comes up in 1724. We see it, and that was 35 years before Burns was born. It's a very popular song, though, in all kinds of places, especially in the Far East. In
Yes.
Japan,
Yes.
it's played daily to mark closing time in most large department stores. So, how did Burns sign himself? What was his name? What did he call himself?
Rabbi.
Not Rabbi, funny.
Robin.
Robin he did, yes. Robin and Rab and Robert, but never Robbie or Rabbi, oddly enough. Although everyone calls him Rabbi or Robbie Burns. Yeah. And there you go. What does it mean, Auld Lang Syne?
Old,
Oh, I know what it
long...
means.
Long
Remembrance?
Signs.
Yeah, kind of old long since. It means in the old days, long time ago. And how do the words go? Anyone who can give me the lyrics gets points.
All the winter be forgotten now. Should
all the
be
winter
forgot for the sake of
Old Lang Syne.
We'll take a couple kindness yet for the sake of old lang.
Oh, yes, 4 points. Spot on. There you go. Osmonds. Aren't they lovely?
They all married to each other, is that?
They're Mormons.
Oh, right.
They're members of the Church of Latter-day Saints, I think they call it. And what teeth?
Beautiful.
They were rubbish, weren't
Were they? Oh, they
they? Apart from little Jimmy Osmond, he was a long-haired lover from Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
And
Well,
of course, it was Big Graham Osmond, the one they kept in the attic.
who had terrible teeth.
Terrible.
He had one massive
Yellow
like a
teeth.
claw.
Yeah.
But he wrote all the songs. By groaning them. He groaned them into a tin can that was connected by a piece of string.
Folklore.
Wild horses driven crazy horses.
They're very bad. And you
Roses!
What was that, Graham?
Bring me another wife!
now, put yourself.
My wife! I'm allowed up to 9, Bill Bailey said! Bring her up 4! I've only got 8! I'm allowed to have many!
Behave. Pull yourself together at once. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
What a great idea!
Liverpool!
That's a great idea for an episode of Doctor Who, isn't it? Doctor Who goes into the attic and finds the elderly secret brother of the hospital. And that's how they kill off David Tennant. Imagine that.
Nobody's supposed to...
Is that the plot of the Christmas show?
Played by Bill Bailey!
Until 2008, it was legal to smoke what I'm talking about in Dutch coffee shops, but now they've changed the law. So what is it? Yes.
Tobacco.
He's clever. He's right. We thought you might say cannabis, but you're too smart.
No, they don't mind you smoking that.
They encourage it.
Yeah.
I went to Amsterdam when I was 19 years old, and I don't do drugs, and I'd never done drugs, and I sat in this cafe, and everyone was smoking, and genuinely I said, no, I'm not going to touch that, I'll just have a piece of cake. and I ate this cake, and then someone said, you know what's in
It's a
that,
hash
don't you?"
brownie.
But I thought that was the same way as you have, like, brandy and trifle or something. I thought it's not going to get you drunk. It's just a little jokey thing they say. So I had one. I said had no effect. I'll have another one. So I ate another one, and then 2 o'clock in the morning, I accused the taxi driver of trying to kill me.
No, you're right. The point is, it leads to rather bizarre situations. If you mixed your cannabis with tobacco in a coffee shop, you would be fined.
Well, that's what they used to sell.
So you can only have pure...
Sell you mixed or...
Not since July 2008. Now you have to smoke your cannabis as pure cannabis in grass or hashish form, I suppose.
So you can't get passive smoking from pure...
No, it's fantastically carcinogenic. It's much more carcinogenic than tobacco.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
It's 7 times more or something.
Oh, sure, really?
So here it is.
Well...
3 joints, that's 20 fags.
Oh, my goodness. But in the street, if you were to smoke... You could smoke tobacco in the street, but if you were to mix it with cannabis, you'd be breaking the law by doing that.
You're
so it's a very
stoned by then, you don't know
complicated
whether
system
to go
they've
indoors or out.
But,
Magic mushrooms,
magic mushrooms.
or a version of magic mushrooms, seeing as you're talking about drugs, the fly agaric, which is that sort of like the
Toadstool.
mushroom you get in a fairy tale. You'd see a little
Toasty, like
elf
a big cheese
sticking
toasty.
on it. It's sort of red with white spots on it.
Yeah.
The fly agaric in Siberia was eaten by the reindeer, and so the reindeer would eat this fly agaric and they'd bounce around.
Off their face.
And that is where they reckon the legend of flying reindeer came from.
Oh,
For your
that's
Christmas
a
edition of QI.
Christmassy
There you
story. Thank you,
The
David.
drug-addled reindeer. Old
And
Siberia.
then, because it's highly toxic to humans, so they would collect the reindeer urine and drink it and get a secondary
Buzz.
hit. Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
brilliant.
then you could drink the wee of the man that drunk
Yeah.
it. Just a mild sort of nice feeling.
Eventually, it would come down to a tiny little, just a cube, isn't it? And then pop it in your drink, and it'd be like a little sort of Pro Plus.
Very good. Now, this third round is about actors. After weeks of being pointedly ignored on tour by Sir John Gielgud, Clive Morton, the character actor, plucked up the courage to knock on his dressing room door. Gielgud opened it. "Thank God it's you," he said. "For one dreadful moment, I thought it was going to be that ghastly bore, Clive Morton." Now, why, Hugh? Yes? Why does the actor Edward Woodward have 4 Ds in his name?
No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm sorry, it was a spasm. Go.
You can't do that.
I'll put it out. Just carry on.
Did you know, this
Forget
is
I'm
quite
here.
interesting.
Yes, good. That's what we're here for.
Did you know
Very good.
kiwi fruit uses more than its own weight in aviation fuel to get from New Zealand to Europe?
5 points. Wonderful. Another 5 points. It sounds mad, but is it, of course, true, absolutely.
And regarding the Edward Woodward...
Yes?
That's how you spell
Oh,
it.
no, let Hugh get
No, really, that's fine. I was going to say exactly that it's got that many D's in it because that's his name. If you took the D's out, it would be a different name.
And what name would it be?
Exactly.
Exactly, it'd be Iwa-woo-woo. It's a sort of structural device, like a joist, which stops his name collapsing into the sort of spongy mass of Iwa-woo-woo.
You're mentioning Edward Woodward, and before that we mentioned John Gielgud. John Gielgud, when he first heard the name Edward Woodward, said, "It's an interesting name. It sounds like a fart in the bath."
It does. The next question goes to Alan. What is the connection between the Archbishop of Canterbury's left ear and Adam's belly button?
The ear and the belly... God, just as you said that, there was a painting came up.
We do this, I'm afraid, yeah. I'm not going to ask who did the painting. That would be an insult.
Adam's on the left.
Yes, well done.
That's his belly button there.
It would seem.
And the Archbishop of Canterbury's ear...
Yeah.
The only time I can ever think where you'd put your ear to someone's belly button would be to hear if their tummy was rumbling. You go, your tummy's rumbling, you're hungry, aren't you?
True.
Is that what it is?
I'm afraid... I don't want to astonish you, but I'm afraid it isn't.
Is it because Adam wouldn't have had a belly button, would he, being the first man, and neither of the
You're
Is that right?
You're really good.
So, he's good, isn't he? I'm going to give him 3 points for that. The fact is, they're both purely decorative. Adam, of course, cannot have had a navel because he was created. He wasn't born, so there wouldn't have been an umbilical cord.
You're saying the Archbishop of Canterbury's left ear is purely
He
decorative?
describes it himself. It's purely decorative. He was born deaf in the left ear, so it has no function.
If his left ear is purely decorative,
Yes.
it's very unimaginative for him just to have an ear there, isn't it? He really could have had anything he wanted there at all. A donut or another organ, like a hand.
Racket, I would have said.
A badminton racket or a shuttlecock. A road sign. A little chiclet.
Or rather, sort of surreally, a portrait of Van Gogh.
Yeah, he could have had Van Gogh. You see, that's
That
brilliant.
was missing, yeah.
He'd have a little Van Gogh there, saying, as if to say, do you see?
Very good. Well, we've got something out of the wreckage. I'm inclined...
Who painted that picture?
1475 till 1564. I hate myself for saying that. Those are his dates.
He's quite correct. Michelangelo Buonarroti. We have to give 5 points to Johnny Sessions for knowing the birth and death dates of Michelangelo. We also have to hate him, incidentally.
Yes.
Very impressed. You can do this. I've done this with John Sessions at parties. When was Bruckner born?
1824, died 1896.
You see? It's right. Isn't it wonderful?
Mahler, 1860, born July the 7th in Caliste in Austria. Died 1911 in Caliste in Austria. It's a horrible sickness.
I met a man the other day who said he was a naval doctor. I didn't know they specialised that much. According to Rita Mae Brown, if Michelangelo had been heterosexual, the Sistine Chapel would have been painted basic white and with a roller.
It's interesting because I guess technically the first bulletproof vests were created by the Zulus when they were fighting the British. Because Shaka discovered that if you dip your leather shield in water before you go into battle, then the pellets couldn't penetrate.
Is it really? Was that... It hardened the leather that much?
And that's how the Zulus could kill so many. Because what would happen is they only needed one bullet, and then they would advance so quickly that then they would kill 5 or 6 British people before they could reload.
Do you have Zulu blood in you?
I do. I guess, yes, because I mean, Xhosa people are of the Zulus.
Do that
yes,
again.
I'm half Xhosa.
Do it again.
So,
I love that.
I can't do that.
I love that.
It's given as an exclamation mark, isn't it?
No, that's the X. So there's the 3 clicks. There's the X, which is the... And then there's the Q, and then there's the C, which is... So those are the 3 different... So that's the...
You've seduced me.
Oh, thank you.
Not that you wanted to, I'm sure.
Who was that wonderful... Was it Miriam Makeba?
Yes, the click song. Yeah, that's the song. Yeah, so The Xhosas were technically they were basically pacifists of the Zulus. They were you know they were chased out. They separated from the tribe, so they weren't as like the Zulus were really our proud. In terms of military, they are our pride and joy. They are.
But the Assagais.
Everything they did was revolutionary. Just like the first they were the first ones with the shortened spear. So Shaka invented a spear that was quicker to stab with and not as cumbersome to
like
to
a sort of
lug around.
javelin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the spear hadn't really been changed over all those years, and he changed
adapted.
that. He changed everything. He was one of the best military.
Yeah.
You know, you guys, if it wasn't for the guns, you guys wouldn't be here.
I know, we wouldn't have.
Just do that bit of singing again.
With the?
Just do that bit of singing again.
Oh, that's the
See,
song.
you don't know me well, Trevor, but I'm on the turn, I'm telling you.
You've only got Jason and Alan left to seduce, Trevor, I have to say.
He's a cracking fella.
We're all... How can a bottle of whiskey save your life?
Oh. Well, in a fight, I'm assuming.
Is it the bottle or the contents?
It's the contents. Ingestion of whiskey.
Well, if you suffered trauma and you've got ethanol in your system, presumably you're going to be better off. Presumably...
Shut up! How did you know that?
Because I've had a lot of trauma while drunk.
You're absolutely right. There was a documented case where it was literally a bottle of whiskey. There was a New Zealand chef called Duthie who went on a vodka binge and he went blind. He was literally blind drunk. They think it was because he was on diabetic medication and that this basically turned it all into formaldehyde, which can cause blindness, as well as preserving you very nicely. And the usual thing is to put someone on an ethanol drip. They didn't have any medical ethanol in this particular hospital, but they did have an offie, so they went and got a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label, and they put him on a drip, and 5 days later, he woke up with sight fully restored.
Wow.
On a whiskey drip?
It was a whiskey drip, literally a bottle of whiskey.
Sounds like a good name for a pub, doesn't it?
I think it's a fact, even if you have an accident or a serious injury and you're drunk at the time, you're probably more likely to recover than if you are...
Shut up again! Did you sneak into my dressing rooms and look at my cards?
I know this. I wrote a play, which is a lot about soldiers and how they deal with things. And some of the soldiers who were intoxicated in the time of the battle did better. They recovered better.
Well, you're absolutely right. Did you know this?
I always knew about the ragdoll effect. If you have the alcohol, and then if you fall or if you're in a car accident, because you don't brace, then it's the same as a baby. If you drop babies, they're fine. They just... So if you're drunk, that's why you recover quicker, because you just don't brace, and then it just goes through you.
Then you'll probably end up in more situations where you're likely to get hurt.
That is true.
You get other injuries. You get other DRIs, don't you? Drink-related injuries.
DRIs? I like the fact you know that. That's a bit we've got Mr. Davis presenting with a DRI again.
A friend who had a great DRI, where he managed to get home against all odds, and then fell asleep against the radiator. Nasty burn on his arm he had.
there was like a practical joke that kids did when I was growing up, which was to fill a ball, football, up with cement, for example, you know, from somebody's garden.
Oh, wow.
You fill a football and leave it outside a pub, and drunk men could not resist. Jesus! They just can't resist a football. I've got this one, Dave! It's a hell of a practical joke, but
it's... put a goalpost on the wall.
Well, this is extraordinary. All I had to do is fill in the dots here. It was Lee Friedman of the University of Illinois at Chicago who spent 14 years examining this effect. He analysed the blood alcohol of 190,000 trauma patients. He found that, with the exception of burns, death rates from all types of traumatic injury fell as blood alcohol levels rose. Which is extraordinary, isn't it?
190,000 seems like an enormous
It's a big
number
cohort, as they would say, isn't it? Exactly, which makes it quite a respected study. Amongst the extremely drunk, mortality rates were cut by nearly 50%. Gunshot and stab victims, however, showed the greatest benefit, which wouldn't be the ragdoll effect, I don't suppose.
There's some kind of anaesthetic element to it.
There is the anaesthetic element as well, which I suppose makes you behave less dramatically in a way that increases blood flow.
I'm bleeding, you just think, you think, oh, look at that.
I better just have a short. I'm going to have to go to the hospital. It's so busy on a weekend.
One more Jaeger bomb couldn't do anything.
Come on, let's go to the hospital. They got a bar there. They have a bar there.
Hopsital.
I'm fine. I've been shot, but I'm fine.
It is the oldest trick in the book.
Is it an ancient Greek book?
It's even older.
Ooh. Egyptian?
Egyptian is the right answer.
I think I might have.
You might know
Is
this?
it about a man called Dedi?
Dedi? How do you know about Dedi? You're right.
He was a man who did the first magic trick, which was, I think, a decapitation of a goose.
You're right.
And tore it off and did it to impress the king. And it's in an ancient scroll.
It
which
is?
I do know the name of. I think I do.
Yeah, go on.
The Westcar Papyrus.
The Westcar Papyrus. This
Oh, yeah.
man is brilliant. How incredible!
I should say, you know, I have
Do they
had...
teach-
Yes, they do. There is a certain
They teach
amount
this
of...
in ancient wizardry
Yes,
at Hogwarts.
they do,
don't
absolutely,
they?
yes. I don't want you to...
This is going to be a very short show.
Next question, come on. I'm not about the jokes, it's all about points for me.
It's all about points.
Can I just ask, what part of pulling a goose's head off is a trick?
Well, no, sorry, yes, and then restored it.
That's the
And
point.
he was
that's
doing-
the
sorry,
key
yes,
bit.
that's the
the
trick.
point. It's a
Oh, the old 2 geese in my bag trick.
He did a goose, as you rightly say, then he did a duck, and then he moved on to an ox, and he would wrench their heads off, and then they would be restored. But you may say, I want to see this trick. If this really exists, I want to see it. After 3, 2, 1, we go Accio Scott. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Accio Scott.
Whoa! Oh, my God! I believe you can do the Dedi trick that Dan told us about.
Yes,
Would you
indeed.
like to do it, please, with
Well,
your...
we'll give it a go with Norman. We just give him a little bit of a...
no.
There we go. Just pop his head back on. There he goes.
Brilliant. Fabulous. The sensational Scott Penrose, ladies and gentlemen. Which of these would you rather have on your Quidditch team? A Muggle, Hagrid, or Dumbledore?
Is it the one that looks like Julius Caesar who's about to be sick in a bucket?
I don't know which one that is.
On the left.
Oh, see, yes, it does. I think that's Dudley, is it?
Yeah.
The point is, in a lot of J.K. Rowling's work, the words are real, and Dumbledore is a real English word, as is Hagrid, as is Muggle. And I want you to tell me what they really mean.
Dumbledore's going to be some sort of a term for a village idiot, I think.
Well, funnily enough, yes, it became that. In Thomas Hardy's Under the Greenwood Tree, it means a slow simpleton. It's used as a bit of a Dumbledore, but actually it has an original earlier meaning, yeah?
Is there not a Hagrid reference in one of the Thomas Hardy books?
There may well be.
I don't know, one of the Thomas Hardy books. I don't know which
I've
one.
read, I mean, I've seen...
Sure
it's the longer form, Hagridden, I've seen many times, but start with...
Monster-like.
Start with Muggle. Do you know where the word Muggle might first have been
Sounds
used?
like some sort of woodland creature or something furry.
Actually, it's an American Jazz Age word. It's a drug.
It's a marijuana.
Marijuana is the right answer. Muggle was a word for marijuana, for cannabis, and indeed more particularly for people who smoked it. They were muggles. People who smoked marijuana were called muggles.
That's hilarious.
But what's the next word, then? We've got Hagrid, which is used in Thomas Hardy, you're right, in the Mayor
I've
of
seen it as a
Casterbridge.
longer form, Hagridden.
Yes, Hagridden. Very good. Clever of you.
It means... Hagridden. It means a bony old horse.
It's a mare.
It's a nightmare.
Yes.
It's a nightmare involving a horse. No.
Was there somebody chasing through?
If you had bad dreams, you were said to be hag-ridden.
Oh, that's great.
That your
isn't it?
witches had come to you in the night. You were hag-ridden.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, to be Hagrid.
Is that a drunk person not finding the toilet?
Well, it's a... since records began... That's horrible. When people sleep...
They'll feel terrible when they wake up.
That's a relationship that's not going to survive, isn't it?
When people sleep badly these days, they think they've been probed by aliens, but before the idea of aliens came, it was goblins and witches and demons and hags. And that's what Hagridden means.
What's the horse doing?
That's the nightmare.
He's operating the video.
Very good.
With his big hooves.
So that leaves us with Dumbledore, which, as you say, has been used to mean a slight simpleton. There's the great Gambon. But it had an earlier meaning, and the first half of it...
Dumble.
Dumble. Think of a rhyming word for dumble.
Jumble.
Mumble, mumble, crumble.
Mumble.
Not mumble.
Mumble.
Bumble.
Yes.
Bumblebee. It's a type of bee.
It is a bumblebee.
I've redeemed myself.
Yeah, there were different ways of saying it. A daw means a humming insect in Old English. So a Dumbledore was a bumblebee.
That's great.
That's what the word means. It's rather nice.
Wow. That's great.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Pleasing.
I can't believe I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I'm really annoyed.
There you
I missed out on more precious points.
Come with me, Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, I say.
This did seem like a good idea. So,
right.
if you want to kneel down there.
Right.
Okay. This feels very wrong, doesn't it? Children are watching and sobbing. What's he doing?
They're crying.
He found Dorothy, now he's killing Harry Potter. Okay.
Daniel, you have...
You right there?
Yeah, that
Daniel, have you
feels
finished
about right, yeah.
both of the Harry Potter films by now?
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
They can usually finish them without you.
I'm so bad at this, I was about to lean through. That's not... You all right, though? You comfortable?
Oh, yes, it's lovely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing can go wrong. Wouldn't it be awful if No, because you know what I mean? We had the stuff about the bullet, and suddenly there'll be some story about... And then Graham got distracted by a bright light, and... Oh, that was dead. I know. Have I done... I think I've done it all right. You live on in films forever.
Drum roll.
Okay, here we go. So, 3, 2...
On that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
What's the best way to find out if one of your guests is drunk without...
Wait, hold on. How have you got this?
We were in the cupboard.
What the hell?
What the heck, fire?
I have no memory of this.
So what's the best way to find out if someone's drunk without using a breathalyzer?
Oh,
No breathalyzer allowed.
Well, I would make a pass at them, and if they go with it, they're drunk.
That works.
Yeah, that's my test. That's lean in for the kiss.
But let's suppose you're a policeman. Would that still be your method?
Sure, take down the particulars.
Sobriety
test is normally walking in a straight line, isn't it?
That's right, especially in America, where states I've been stopped and, you know, they make you do that.
Look, people always act... People that are acting really normal, hyper-normal, I think they're loaded.
Yes, because drunk people announce slightly too perfectly.
And talk a
to
little
show
too
that they're
loud.
not slurring.
Yes. When people are acting normal, they
Yes.
are drunk out of their minds.
The British police used to have, and American in some states, had phrases they asked you to repeat, tongue twisters. The Leith police dismisseth us is quite a well-known one. Can you say that?
Dismisses us.
Can you say that?
Leith police dismisses us.
The Leith police dismisses us.
No, the Leith police dismisseth us.
The Leith police dismisseth us. I haven't had a drink. I'd be in
You'd be in trouble.
Dismisses us.
Yeah. You see, that's cheating. You can't do it, Yoda. On a lazy laser razor lies a laser ray eraser. That's not too difficult. On a lazy laser razor lies a lazy ray eraser.
Well, why would you say that in any... There's no context where you...
There isn't really, is there?
A wicked cricket critic, that's one
A
of the ones.
wicked critic. A wicked cricket critic.
That's-
Yeah, a wicked cricket critic.
A wicked cricket critic.
Yeah. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie.
Where was that? That's a shizzle.
Researchers at MIT, I don't know why they say this is the most difficult, but maybe for drunk people it is. Pad kid, poured curd, pulled cod. Doesn't seem that difficult. Pad kid, poured curd, pulled cod.
That doesn't seem that
The one
difficult.
I've always thought the most difficult is you imagine a mother watching her son who's remetalling the bottom of a pan. She says, "Are you copper-bottoming 'em, my man?" "No, I'm aluminiuming 'em, mum."
Aluminium.
Are you copper-bottoming
My man. No, I'm aluminiuming.
Very good. Are you copper-bottoming 'em, my man? No, I'm aluminiuming 'em, mum.
Okay, I'll do the beat.
Alan, do it.
I can't do it.
Who makes up this stuff?
Some teachers. But you would say aluminum, Mum.
Aluminum.
I wouldn't say any of it.
You're right.
You would maybe
Unless
just
I
go,
was
officer,
drunk.
I am drunk.
I know.
By the time you got to this one, you just go, you know what, I'll pay the fine.
For me to thank Carrie, Jimmy, Bill, and... Oh, wait a second. There's one little boy here who still hadn't had a present. Oh, but here's Santa! Hello, Santa. So, Santa, what have you got for Alan? Have a feel in Santa's sack, Alan. What can you... Have a feel. What can you... What's in there?
Ping pong balls.
Ping pong balls. Now, I know a very exciting thing you can do with ping pong balls, but it's quite loud and quite dangerous. So, can you all put your ear defenders on?
Right.
So,
Look
Jimmy,
at Carrie's ear defenders.
Carrie's ear defenders are very special.
Oh, you don't know, but you got me through some very difficult years. I only said that when you had the ear defenders on.
You go in the safe place, Jimmy, Carrie, and Bill. And ear defenders on in the audience, if you would. Good luck. Oh, well done.
Bye.
Right.
Alan, you and I are going to the extremely dangerous place. I mean, kind of suicidal. To put the goggles on before the... Yeah, all right. And I've got gloves, which you don't need to have. Right, OK, so here we have the ping-pong balls. We're going to pour in liquid nitrogen, which is 196 degrees minus, that is. Really, really cold. We're pouring it into this bottle. And it's fine in the bottle, but if you put it in really hot water, obviously this is gas, which is in liquid form. And when it heats, it'll go back to gas. But there's so much of it, it'll expand and expand and expand, and the bottle will explode really rather violently. So if you put it in, there's hot water in there. We're going to add these ping-pong balls. And the moment the bottle goes in, Alan, pop in all of them. That's it. And I'll pop in all of mine. And then we've got about 5 seconds. Well, let's go. Oh, gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, that is great.
That was genuinely like all our Christmases came at once.
Ding dong, merrily on high, and a very happy
How
Christmas.
can you tell when you're a victim of the Goldilocks effect? Yes.
You feel just right.
That's sort of exactly what a Goldilocks anything is, isn't it? Because that's the nature of Goldilocks. You're absolutely right. It's just all about this one's too much, that one's too little, this one is just right. And the Goldilocks effect is used in business. You set a price of something.
And then you set 3 bears on them.
Well, you have a range of 3, and the most expensive one is unbelievably expensive. And the second one is really a quarter as much and seems just as nice, really. And then there's a third one that's really very cheap. And most people will go for the second one.
Why?
Because they think it's just right. They think, oh, the first one's too expensive. But that's a bargain. A good example, supposedly, of Goldilocks pricing is the airfare, actually. The basic economy price for a transatlantic airline is about £500. And then there's business class for a mere £3,500. And then first class with a full-size bed and the ability to order food whenever you want and other things for £8,000. And according to Goldilocks pricing, business class with all its perks looks like a bargain when compared to the £8,000, even though it's still 7 times as expensive as economy.
I was talking to Steve Cram once, and he's a very nice chap, very fast runner. And he said that they make trainers, they have to make some that are extremely expensive because people will buy them. If they don't, the other manufacturer will charge 200 quid for basically, once you get to about, this was 10 years ago and he was saying about 60 quid, so maybe it's a bit more now. Then they're really about the same after that.
Yeah.
So once you get to 100, 120, 150, you're just giving them money.
And that's called prestige pricing, which is, again, bizarre. If something's expensive enough, people will believe it must be quality. And, you know, they see me coming. They see those people coming. Well, there are other Goldilocks things. There's a Goldilocks zone. The distance from the sun a planet has to be in another solar system, which would support water where it wouldn't be too hot, wouldn't be too cold. Well, there you are, anyway. Yes, Goldilocks pricing is a technique where one item is given a huge price tag to help persuade us that the next one down is relatively good value.
Take my onions off now.
You can take your onions off.
And that's slightly restricting Montet.
Yeah. course you must. It's matet, it's feminine, -5.
I said mon because I'm masculine.
It doesn't quite work that way, I'm
Doesn't it?
afraid, no. For example, the word vagina is masculine, whichever sex you are, and you're likely to be female if you have one.
But you would say mon vagina.
You, as it were, yes. You would.
That makes it sound like a mountain somewhere, doesn't it? It's not, is it?
Yes.
Oh, I must climb mon vagina.
Many have. Many have fallen off.
Bon, allons-y, mes copains. Alors, à ce moment-ci, je vous donne des bonus points si vous pouvez répondre en français. OK? Yeah.
Oui.
Very good. Already, bonus points to you. Phil.
Non.
Plus tard, nous verrons. Phil, comment ça va?
That was French.
That is fluent. Joe, voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?
Pardon me. Not asked.
Excellent. 4 points. Anna, donne-moi un mot, s'il vous plaît. Un mot pour un mammifère marin qui ne peut avaler aucun plus grand qu'un pamplemousse.
Pamplemousse. What's a pamplemousse? Ask the audience, ask the audience.
I think...
What's a pamplemousse?
It's French palm.
Grapefruit.
Grapefruit. Do I?
See, Alan, for the last 6 years, you have yearned for the answer to a question to be, and it never has been.
The blue whale.
And that is the answer! Oh. I asked you, in my broken French, to name a marine mammal that couldn't swallow anything bigger than a grapefruit.
Right.
And that is a blue whale.
Yeah.
Oh, you could have had such pleasure and
Yeah.
joy. What did they call the man who won the Battle of Hastings?
Harold.
Ah, no, they called him.
And he lost, didn't he?
Yes. What did they call the man who won?
William the Conqueror.
William the Conqueror.
No, we call him William the Conqueror. What did they call him in the day?
Normandy, I think.
William le Conqueror.
But the fact is, no, the word William didn't exist at all as a name at the time of the conquest. He was known as Guillaume Bâtard. William the Bastard, in fact, was how he was universally known by the other French. It wasn't as rude to call him that.
The bloke on the left appears to be riding a llama. I mean, that's definitely a horse on the right. I mean, he's got a parrot. He's a random pirate, has arrived in the middle.
Well, I arrived on a busy day here in Hastings. Who's that doing the embroidery over yonder? Get my good side.
As you might see in the top left corner, the word William is kind of developing. It's become Wilgelm. Wilgelm.
No, it's Will 6 Elm.
Wilgelm.
Normano, I like
Normano.
that. Yeah.
Is it Normano?
Or...
Is that like medieval text speak? They never put the whole thing in. They just thought, you know, we've invaded Britain. Lol.
OMG. Very good. So, they have indeed. That's basically the point. But all the Norman names, all the Saxon names disappear within 50 years of the invasion. All the Earwigs and Ethelreds and all those sort of names disappeared, and it became Hugo and Robert and Richard and William became the most popular names. William, one in every 7
Which of these would be nice next-door neighbours? Galaxies, hyenas, newlyweds, octopuses or burglars?
That's more of a mime artist than a burglar.
That is, yes.
I imagine that burglars don't burgle their neighbours.
Yes, that's absolutely
They go
right.
further afield.
Yeah,
Or
they're
I do
nice.
the neighbours.
They're not
with the
lazy.
neighbours.
That's
Yeah.
something in their defence.
No.
It could be selfishness, though, couldn't it? It could be that they just don't want to put their own insurance premium up.
That's a very good point. But you are right. Burglars are very good neighbours in that they're not going to burgle you. Galaxies bad neighbours. So what happens when they reach a certain age? A galaxy stops spawning new stars and they just swallow smaller galaxies. So our own home galaxy, the Milky Way, is expected quite soon. This is in astronomical terms, 4 billion years from now, to eat 2 of its neighbours, the large and small Magellanic Clouds, and then about 1 billion years after that, the Milky Way will get eaten itself by the Andromeda Galaxy.
Andromeda, yeah.
Yeah. What about hyenas? Good neighbours, bad neighbours?
Oh, that laughing. When Mrs. Brown's boy's on, it's probably a nightmare.
That's actually what they do in the studio audience. They don't use canned laughter on that show. They have live hyenas.
The trouble with hyenas is you spend days and days stalking your deer.
Yeah.
And then they just come and rob it off you. So I bet they're terrible neighbours.
You think they're terrible neighbours? Any more, Frankie?
I just think, although you'd know that they weren't laughing at you, it'd be hard not to be a little paranoid.
They're extraordinary creatures. They're so aggressive. There's so much testosterone in a hyena that when a baby hyena is born, the first thing it does is turns around and tries to kill the next one that's trying to be born. So, I mean, they're really aggressive. However, very good neighbours. Oh. Most people who live in hyena-prone areas, in fact, encourage hyenas because they control pests and they clear up all diseased animal carcasses. And they don't attack humans as much as that photograph might suggest.
That one's wearing a John Lydon wig.
What about newlyweds? What do you think? Good neighbours, bad neighbours?
Well, I enjoy hearing other people making love. I so rarely do it myself these days.
So they did a survey in Colorado and they found that people are much happier if they think they're having more sex than their neighbours. That's a thing. And so having a honeymoon couple move in next door makes you feel depressed. What about gloomy octopuses? Good neighbours, bad neighbours?
They'd have lovely gardens.
Well, yes and no is the weird thing. It's the common Sydney octopus, but it's known as the gloomy octopus. What it does is it throws rubbish at its neighbours. It lives in Jervis Bay in Australia, and it gathers debris into its arms, and then it uses the jet propulsion siphons on the sides of its body to hurl it at the neighbours. And it's really unusual to find projectile weapons in animals. So it may just be over-enthusiastic housework, I don't know.
Is it because the octopuses next door are having more sex?
The sound of the suckers.
OK, that thought is never going to leave me now. Right. Is this the neck verse thing? Isn't it beautiful?
It's not worth losing your nuts for, though, is it?
Well, you might lose more than that. It is
Is it about hanging?
It is about dying, certainly. It's known as the neck verse. Does anybody know why?
The neck verse is how a German doctor tells you have whiplash. I do know this.
Yes.
There used to be a thing called benefit of clergy, where if people could prove that they were in the clergy by reciting a verse of the Bible, then they were tried under ecclesiastical law instead of normal law, where they'd be more likely to get hung.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's brilliant. It's 1251 when it was known as the neck verse, and you had to be able to recite it in Latin. O God, have mercy upon me according to thine heartfelt mercifulness. And the benefit of the clergy, it existed for about 600 years, from about the 12th century to 1841. And some crimes, the clergy would get lesser sentences. And so it used to be you had to prove you were clergy. But over time, it was enough to prove you were literate, so obviously in Latin. And this created a loophole, so illiterate people could learn that verse by heart. And the courts were happy to go along with this. It's a legal fiction because there were many crimes which it was felt that the punishment was too harsh. So they would allow this fiction that you were a member of the clergy and therefore you could get away with it. In fact, Ben Jonson, the playwright, 1598, he avoided being hanged for killing an actor in a duel, an actor called Gabriel Spencer, by pleading benefit of clergy. So it's
I know a bit about Ben Jonson. He murdered someone that he acted in a play with. The play was called The Isle of Dogs, and it was so offensive that it was suppressed so completely nobody's ever worked out what it was about.
We don't even have a record of the script or anything.
And then you released it on DVD.
On to the Romans. What did they ever do for us?
I know what they didn't do.
What did they not do?
I've seen this programme before.
Yeah.
They didn't build roads.
No, they really did.
They
David.
did.
In Monty Python's Life of Brian, they ask, all right, but apart from, you know, the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a freshwater system and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us? In fact, most of those items on the list already existed. They were improved upon rather than invented by the Romans. So they didn't invent roads, but they did certainly make them.
Did they invent aqueducts?
No, they did not invent aqueducts either. They were used by the Egyptians and the Babylonians for hundreds of years before the Romans.
Underfloor heating?
I mean, again, there is underfloor heating in other parts of the world. Yes, I'm afraid so.
Pasta.
Pasta. They invented pasta. Absolutely. No, all sorts of things that we think. So, for example, straight roads is one of the things that we think, but we know straight roads existed in Ireland, which the Romans didn't even reach. They didn't even invent paved roads. The world's oldest paved road, which this is part of, 4,500 years ago, this road was laid down. It's in Egypt. So it was laid down in order to build the monuments at Giza along the Nile. There is something the Romans did give us, which is the Wicker Man. So the very first evidence that we have of the Wicker Man style of pagan sacrifice comes from Julius Caesar. He claimed that the Druids burned people alive inside wicker cages.
Oh, wow.
The thing is, he's thought to have invented it because he wanted to show how barbaric everybody was in Britain. Although maybe the Wicker Man has not... We have no evidence of it because...
Because they took it apart to make some cool chairs in the 80s.
Does anybody want to see a Peter Rabbit Wicker Man?
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Okay,
Always.
well... So, in 2016, they made a 40-foot, there it is, straw statue of Peter Rabbit. It was created to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Beatrix.
It's full of rabbits.
Well, it was set alight by arsonists. Or Mr McGregor, which is the one I'm voting for. And we had a picture of it on fire, but I couldn't bear to show it.
Oh.
Show it.
No.
Show
No,
it.
it's just... No.
Show it.
It's
Show
too...
it.
No.
Show it. Come on, you lot. What sort of rabble are you? I'm trying to rouse you. You want to see the burning rabbit? Do it!
What is wrong with you?
It's not a real rabbit. It's just a picture of a fire.
I'm not showing Peter Rabbit on fire. It's not happening.
Yeah. And so was it supposed to...
Wow, I'm being nice for the odd child who watches. It's not happening.
You're a very odd child watching this.
But the welfare, the idea of welfare is a Roman concept. So they had something a bit like a sort of corn dole. So if the poor were really suffering, they would give out and look after the needy. And that is a concept that hadn't existed before.
I think there are some African scholars that would really disagree with that. Because there's lots of evidence that African villages used to share and they would never let anybody go poor. There's a Jamaican word called partner. It's like partner, but partner, where people put money into a kitty in the village, and it's to make sure that no one goes poor.
And I think there's a serious issue in history that probably a lot of that stuff that happened was not written down, and so it has been lost.
Well, you know, this... I'm going to talk about what I teach at university, but I teach the oral tradition, and so a lot of it is handed down word to mouth.
Who would be the worst person to borrow a glove from?
O.J. Simpson?
The guy that gave me a strip search at Heathrow Airport, so wouldn't want to borrow a glove from him.
Did you do the whole... I don't know why I'm doing
Really?
that. I imagine there's not that much movement in it.
Yeah. You're not changing a light bulb up there.
I was coming from a particular part of the world which is known as the source of narcotics, and I looked suspicious.
Was it Kensington?
And they gave me a strip search.
That's awful.
Yeah.
What did they find?
2 kilos of cocaine, but that's not the point.
They found the world's longest sock.
They found nothing. I am innocent. I'm a good boy. I haven't
Quite
broke
right.
the law for months.
A while. So I'm going to give you a clue. The worst person to borrow a glove from, he was Russian, he was romantic.
Oh.
His name begins with
Rasputin. That was a trick of the highest order, Sandy.
That's so much fun. Rachmaninoff. Sergei Rachmaninoff. He had huge hands. You should have keyboards.
Yeah.
So if you have a look at the keyboards, he could span 12 keys. So that is Rachmaninoff's hand that you have there. So put it up against your hand. He could span 12 notes. How many can you span with a single hand?
Oh, I got really smart.
I'm on 10.
You can do 10.
9, just about.
Just about 9.
Yeah.
And Sarah, what about you? Using all 5 fingers?
15.
Yeah. So there is an argument that some of the virtuoso pieces on piano are inherently sexist because women simply can't manage.
Possible.
The thing about him that makes me so angry about the world, in a way, is that his very first symphony, he was so severely criticised by a man called César Cui that he didn't actually compose again for 4 years. It put him in such a depression.
Yeah, it's like my first Edinburgh.
Name 2 things you can get from a kangaroo's nipple.
I bet they don't lactate.
Oh, they do.
Is it a trick?
No, they do lactate.
They do lactate.
And that's what's so interesting.
No, because they have
Castlemaine 4X out of 1, Foster's out of the other.
They have little babies that are born... It's almost still fetuses, right? And then
No, they're like
latch
little
on.
maggots, they look.
Yeah.
They're tiny little wriggly things called joeys, as I'm sure
And
you
then
know.
they have to crawl to the pouch.
They crawl all the way up
there of their own.
and the nipples are in the pouch. But there might be a much older brother or sister in there.
Oh, they can do something with their eggs, can't they? If they're nursing one joey, they can hold off the egg from another, or they can...
Well, no, actually, quite the reverse. They can
Oh,
have
okay.
2 joeys who are completely different ages,
Different ages.
and have different needs.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So there they are, and there are all these nipples, and the nipples know whether it's a young joey who needs a kind of semi-skimmed milk, which is not so very rich and strong and thick, and there's the older joey at another nipple, or even the same nipple later on, and it will know that it's an older joey and give it a much thicker. And that's a rather magical trick. It's because of the power of the suction. The young ones don't suck so hard, whereas when they really, really have a go, which the older ones do, they get the thicker.
How do the scientists find these things out? How are they doing that?
Really,
I'm just popping off down to the kangaroo enclosure for a bit of a suck.
Yeah, that's rich. That's definitely
I'm
rich.
going to suck quite powerfully.
I'm taking my younger brother. My younger brother's going to suck a little bit less.
But I think if you saw a kangaroo with a tiny, tiny joey and a really big joey, both still suckling, you would wonder if they needed the same sort of proteinous drink or
It
not.
wouldn't cross my mind, Stephen, to be honest. I saw one once, and they're quite fun. A little joey, and the tourists came round in this wildlife park, and it got a little bit spooked, so it bounded across to its mother and just leapt in, head first.
Oh, they do this.
And there was another, ooh, like this, and then there was, like, in the sack... there was
I
a lot
know,
of
you see the legs.
the whole thing, and she was going, oh, for God's sake. Then its head came out. Really
You think the
comical.
leg's going to burst through the...
It really looks at how they hold him that.
Yeah,
looks
it is
like
incredible.
A bin liner couldn't hold him. Stronger than a bin liner used to. True.
Yeah, well, that's the miracle of kangaroo suckling.
I'm sorry.
This
is the only show where I hear sentences like that. That's the miracle of kangaroo suckling.
Next, a feast on a breakfast menu of horse manure, rancid pickled mudfish, Thai boy shrimp, and big cock shrimp paste.
It's the Vietnamese. This is items... I got sent some big cock paste.
An Amazon order went terribly wrong in your house.
It exists, big cock shrimp paste and Thai boy shrimp paste.
Yeah.
They both exist.
I'm married to a Norwegian, and they eat a dish all over Norway called lutefisk, which is a jellified fish, and it's cod really, but they bury it, I think, then dry it out, and then they serve this for me, my in-laws.
Those bastards.
And
They saw you coming, mate. They saw you coming.
My mother-in-law made me a fish pie. It was delicious.
So I ate this thing, and I did what we always do when you don't really like something, is you around someone's house or...
Oh,
paying for
God!
What is this? So I just ate it really quickly, by which point, obviously, my mother-in-law then just went, well, this is fantastic, you must have some more. And so
that's the trouble.
And I finished, and I thought, I've got to be honest with them. And I said at the end, I said, look, I'm really sorry, but I've got to be honest, I really don't like it. And they went, Oh, God, we hate it. We're only serving it because you're... It's just... That's Norwegian... That's Norwegian table
That's brilliant. Well, it may be the case that that's what this particular feaster on these foods also thinks, but it seems unlikely because it's not human.
I was going to say, is it an animal?
It is a living creature. Very beautiful creature.
Flamingo.
Not a flamingo. It's one you can find in Britain. In fact, it's in Britain that it's offered this food regularly, once a year, as a sort of tribute to its beauty. And it...
It's Prince Philip.
Well...
Has it got 4 legs?
6. 6 legs.
Is it an ant?
It's not an ant, but it is definitely an insect.
Is it a bee?
No, but it's a flying insect.
Is it a fly?
Has the word fly in its family name.
A butterfly.
Butterfly. It's a type of... A species of butterfly.
Butterfly like
There it is.
paste.
Very beautiful butterfly. It's a purple emperor.
Oh, wow.
A cock-hungry purple emperor.
Yes.
Settled on my bell end. At 4 o'clock in the morning, would you?
Oh, dear.
I was out in the garden the other day and I was admiring a cock-hungry purple emperor on my red hot poker.
It's no...
There was paste everywhere. The poor bugger couldn't take off.
Now, calm down. Anyway, they live in the trees high up. And you say, well, how do they know that they have a taste for all this? Well, they've been observed in midsummer coming down from their usual feeding areas high in the trees and going for kelp hats, that sort of thing, and other really rotting and horrible things. And so, because they're so admired, particularly in Northamptonshire, where this takes place, a little picnic is spread out for them in midsummer, including rancid pickled mudfish, foxcat, stinking big cock shrimp paste, and Thai boy shrimp paste. And they seem to like this, possibly because of its sodium content. No one's quite sure, but it's a kind of weird thing. If you find yourself in midsummer in Northamptonshire, follow the smell. Must be remarkable, all lots of those beautiful animals.
In a forest, they lay this out, did you say?
In a clearing.
In a clearing. Because you could get into real trouble if you go looking for a dodgy smell in a forest. If you go looking for the smell of sodium and shrimp paste, you might walk into something other than a butterfly celebration. I'm just saying.
Especially in Northamptonshire. Instantly reduces the value of a house in America by 1/3.
O.J. Simpson lived there.
Third.
Is it a tornado cutting it into thirds?
2/3 of it is on one side of the San Andreas fault.
I may say that what it is nonsense, but it's the kind of nonsense that Americans, unfortunately, quite often seem to believe in.
Yeah, like it's whether or not it's near to a drive-in.
Portal to hell.
Well, kind of.
It's buried on a graveyard.
Haunted is the right answer. Haunted. Obviously, it won't be haunted because...
There's no such thing as ghosts.
No such thing as ghosts, exactly. But the point is, the stigma of haunting is enough. If it's merely mentioned or that people seem to believe that there are ghosts there, then it will reduce...
I told you about the haunting.
Yeah. I told you about the
There
ghosts.
should be ghosts everywhere. I mean, so many of them. There should be ghosts. There should be dinosaur ghosts. There should be cow ghosts.
Exactly.
Sheep ghosts.
Yes. I know.
Worm ghosts.
Yeah, dinosaur ghosts. That's a brilliant idea.
Tons of them. There should be stromatolite ghosts, rocks that used to live in the old days.
The most plausible thing I ever heard on the ghost front is the idea it can be the atmospheric thing like a lightning bolt or something. It's because of a peculiarity in a magnetic force.
Yes,
and these people
right.
are unaware that they're ghosts, and that's why they appear to float or walk through doors, because as far as they're concerned, the door isn't there. And I can kind of... I can kind of buy that.
I can buy that people's brains are affected by magnetic fields, and there are certain circumstances where it is quite common for people to feel chill and dread and to hallucinate and indeed to die, and this is quite common in houses.
That was.
This is quite common. And that's carbon monoxide poisoning.
Oh.
From bad gas
Heaters,
boilers and so on. And it causes all those symptoms.
But as for dead people coming back, no.
There should be dead cows. No one ever says.
Exactly.
And,
I so agree with you.
The
I'm with
meatpacking
you.
district in New York.
Yeah, why do you draw the line? Suddenly it's only human beings.
Because if you're passing a field and you see a cow in it, you don't say, that's a ghost. They by and large won't turn up.
If you saw it in your house, you would.
Yeah, if you saw it in your house, but cows aren't going to be in the house.
They are, because they've been turned into
Houses are built on all kinds of pieces of land.
Please, I'm not advocating for the ghost party over here.
I love the idea of the ghost party. Whoa! All the parties are out, they're just scaremongering. Very good.
First appearance of the pipe. The pipe in high definition for the first time.
High-def pipe.
What happened to pipes? That's where they went.
I love pipes.
Would you like to meet the last ever winner of the Pipe Smoker of the Year? How do you do it?
My answer is going to be no.
Did you affect a pipe for a period?
The first Q I was about to start as a series, and I was asked to do some press for it. And I left the house to go to wherever it was this interview was. And I suddenly realised I had no cigarettes. And in those days, I was a smoker. And I thought, and I just saw a pipe and some tobacco. And I thought, I'll grab that, put it in my pocket.
You just saw pipe just lying there in the street?
No, in my house as I was leaving. And 2 days after the Independent article opened, I was asked if I would be the pipe smoker of the year. I said, yes. Absolutely.
It confers a kind of respectability, I think.
Well,
a trustworthiness.
I never think you can truly give directions without a pipe, and that's why I envy you that, Bill. Sorry,
Yes.
no, really.
Oh, well, yeah.
Could you tell me where the station is?
What is it?
And recognising a friend. Great job for that.
I think...
Now, a good haunting can knock a third off the value of an American house. Describe the arrangements for moving a house in the 4th largest island in South America. Oh.
The 4th
largest island in South America.
Look at your tats.
I know, I've got them covered up at the moment, but they are...
I can tell you the 3rd largest.
Go on, then.
Island. Well, they just get it in a van and go. What the hell is the 4th?
The 4th largest island, well, if I tell you its name is Chiloé.
There'll be a boat. Oh, that helps. What?
They're the people of Chiloé, the 4th largest island. It's off the coast of Chile.
Well, obviously, they get a yak first.
That's
2 yaks.
Actually, they call it a yunta, which is like a team of cattle.
Right.
The point is, when they move house, they literally move house. If they have a haunting, for example, there's a bad spirit, rather than just leave the house and build a house somewhere else, they move the house thinking that the spirit will stay behind. And we can see, I think we've got VT,
This is the...
them moving the house. Look, here they go. That's the yunta, and they've got logs, and there it goes.
And that's because there's a ghost inside.
There's a ghost inside.
What if the ghost can travel with them?
But apparently the ghost doesn't.
Well, the ghost goes, I'm still here. Oh, bugger, put it back.
Apparently it doesn't. Apparently the ghost gets left behind going, what happened?
You could shoot me. Do the cows have any idea where they come
from?
Or all the houses just at one end of the field? Where the best grass is.
Possibly.
That is an adventure movie, isn't it? That just looks fantastic.
It's Fitzcarraldo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very writ small.
Oh, I think it's Die Hard with a cow.
Or
the guy in the window's going, I want to stay here. The person at the door's going, what the hell? He just came down because there was a rumbling.
It's quite a sight. Apparently tourists come from Chile to watch it. And the ceremony is called the Minga. And they have a great feast called the Coranto, and they dance a waltz. So, now, when the inhabitants of Chiloé Island have unwanted supernatural house guests, they just get their neighbours to pull the house. What did the Pope's librarian say when he first saw the rings around the planet Saturn?
They initially thought the planet had ears.
Ah, yes.
That was Galileo. I mean, I don't think he actually thought it had ears, because Galileo was a genius.
No, he thought like a jug. Ears in the sense of a jug ears, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's Galileo, who was sensible.
They are
I'm
remarkable.
talking about the librarian of the Pope.
Do you know...
He genuinely believed that it was possible that after Christ's ascension into heaven, The rings of Saturn were where he put his foreskin.
Ah, yes.
Now, you may think, oh, I'm trying to mock the church. This is all nonsense. But Christ, of course, was a Jewish boy, and like all Jewish boys, on the 8th day of his birth, he was circumcised.
50,000 miles across.
They
Imagine
didn't know.
the size.
They weren't aware of that.
I need a peg to hang this massive foreskin on.
I've got new respect for Jesus.
That's some girth.
His name was Leo Alatius, and his essay was called De Praeputio Domini Nostri Jesu Christi Diatriba, a diatribe, a discussion concerning the prepuce, foreskin, of our Lord Jesus Christ.
This is how to interest teenagers in astronomy. this is how quick I've been missing.
Is it out there as a relic?
Well, like all the relics, there are 18 places who claim to have the one true holy foreskin.
Oh, they really?
Christ, yes. They Catherine of Siena was one of the weirder of the saints. She believed that Christ gave her his foreskin as a wedding ring in their mystical marriage.
What a gift.
After her death, her hand was cut off and became a relic with its invisible foreskin on it as a ring. She was an extreme anorexic, a peculiar woman. She also actively sought out degrading experiences. She once drank a cupful of cancerous pus from a woman who had abused her. So naturally...
Has she appeared on Mock the Week?
But now, more importantly, more significantly, how were the rings around Saturn actually formed?
I'm going to play the card there.
You are right. You're a true scientist. The fact is, nobody does really know, do they? There are two sort of major... Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
I didn't copy, I wasn't copying.
Yeah. There's a Socratic acceptance of the limits of one's own knowledge, and there's ignorance. I'm not saying which is which. No, quite right. There are two major theories. I think there are two major theories.
Yeah, it's thought there could be a moon that was either disrupted, so something hit it and fragmented it. Although they are almost pure water ice, which, come to think of it now, sat here, makes the moon theory a bit unlikely, doesn't it? Because moons are made of rock.
So the other theory would be that it would be something to do with the formation of the planet itself, that something spun off it in some way and then achieved a stable orbit around and then formed these...
And they don't coalesce together. They're held, the structures are held by the other moons. There are over 60 moons of Saturn.
Are they part of the rings or entirely separate from the rings?
Some of them are inside small moons called shepherd moons, which go around and you get rings in between those moons. And then it's got moons outside the rings, which affect the structure of the rings. So they orbit outside and affect it.
Quite
it's a very complex...
Life-carrying moons?
Structure. Well, there's a moon called Enceladus, which is about as big as Britain. It's a very small moon. But it has fountains of ice rising up out of the surface. And it's thought that means that there may well be liquid water beneath the surface, so pockets of liquid water. Everywhere on Earth that you find water, you find life.
Of all these moons, like, this is the one thing I wanted to ask you. Of all these moons, which one's most likely to be the home to Ewoks?
It would be Titan.
Titan
has got a thicker atmosphere than the Earth.
Oh.
So you'd need to be furry.
Good answer. We just have to destroy the one that has Jar Jar Binks on it, though. That's the rules on a pirate ship.
Rules?
Yeah. What sort of rules would they have?
Obviously, they've got a captain.
Yes.
So he's in charge. So I imagine he gets most of the gold and whatever they find.
Well, oddly enough, now, they had two senior officers, the captain and the quartermaster. And the captain could be vetoed by the quartermaster on all matters except battle, except rules of engagement when fighting. And they had strong laws. And the quartermaster was, he was about how much they divvied out, including he decided how much the captain got. The captain had no special quarters. He didn't have a, you know, wonderful room such as you imagine in movies. So it's not exactly hierarchical. It's kind of a rule of two, the quartermaster and the captain. Otherwise, it was more or less a democracy in a strange sort of way, but with strict rules. For example, in Captain Bartholomew Roberts' ship, the Fortune, there was no gambling. It was like a boarding school. No smuggling girls into the dorm. No playing music on a Sunday. And lights out at 8 o'clock sharp in the evening.
Rubbish being a pirate.
I know. That's not quite what you imagine.
My
is
dad,
it?
the captain. That's rubbish.
Where are you going to smuggle these girls from, anyway?
That's true.
You rescue one from the sea. No.
When it came to women aboard, the articles of Captain George Lowther, who was a famous pirate of his day, said, if at any time you meet with a prudent woman, that man that offers to meddle with her, without her consent, shall suffer present death. So meddling with a prudent woman without her consent got you death. So they really were very strict with each other.
So meddling was rape, really?
I think essentially we're talking
that
about rape.
Lost its meaning by the time Scooby-Doo came on.
Exactly. Why, you pesky kids haven't meddled?
Notorious gang rapists.
That's just terrible. I'm ashamed of you.
Why is the pirate voice similar to the farmer's voice? Why is there something? Arr! Get off my land! There's
one man responsible.
Right.
Do you know who it is?
It'll be a film actor.
Yes.
Oh, OK.
In Treasure Island?
He played in a great performance of Treasure Island. And in fact, Tony Hancock, the great comedian, he first started out as an impersonator of this actor.
Lawton?
No, not quite as well known as Lawton. In his own day, he was very, very well known, but now less well known.
Anybody?
We've mentioned on QI before.
Hang on a minute.
The chances of Alan remembering it are...
Someone in the front row saying, you've done this! This was on Dave on Tuesday. New facts.
Yeah, well, it was Robert Newton, anyway.
Robert Newton.
Thank you, yes.
Robert Newton.
Robert Newton is the right answer, but it doesn't count because we've had it before. There we are.
David Prowse almost did that, didn't he, to Darth Vader? He has a West Country accent, didn't he?
Yes,
and he famously thought that he was going to be used, didn't he?
Yes.
With his West Country accent, he got redone.
I am your father.
Very upset.
I'm your father, and I'm your brother as well.
Darth Vader on a big tractor. Yeah. Trundling down the corridors of the Death Star, chewing a bit of straw. Darth. Mr. Darth to you.
Mr. Darth. It's... yeah, anyway.
You know the skull and crossbone flag?
Yes.
Do they really have that? Because, I mean, that's really giving it away,
we
isn't
definitely
it?
covered that in the last
Oh,
series.
really? I must have missed
Alan will tell you all about it.
Go on.
Jolly Roger.
Well, yeah, everyone knows it's called What is that, a proposition? Maybe later, Alan.
It's been 10 years, Stephen, and I've finally come round to it. It's time for a Jolly Roger.
When is the present?
Oh, I'm not going to fall into that trap. Who's going to say it?
Well, it's not really a trap. It is a genuinely interesting question. I mean, there are different ways of trying to describe what the present might be, but let's talk about the present in terms of archaeology. Archaeologists actually have an acronym, BP, which means before present, and they can date the present. It's an exact date, January the 1st, 1950.
That's the present.
That, for archaeologists, and there's a very good reason for this, and you might be able to work it out. If you did, I'd be very impressed.
Is it plastics?
Not quite that.
Bakelite?
When archaeologists... No, archaeologists are interested in the distant past. And recently, in the last 100 or so years, certain techniques have enabled us to discover... I say us, I mean...
Carbon dating.
Carbon dating has allowed us to discover how old things are. Now, in the 1950s... Basically, they decided by January the 1st, 1950, we had so screwed up the atmosphere with nuclear testing that no carbon dating could be trusted after January the 1st, 1950. So that is known as the present.
See, these archaeologists need to learn a bit of physics, though. According to Einstein's theory of space and time,
Yes.
which is our best theory of space and time, there's no such thing as a present moment which spans the universe, or indeed even the Earth, or in fact even two people moving relative to each other.
It is absurd to think of an event that might be happening now in a galaxy and me doing this as being simultaneous. That has no meaning cosmically, does it?
Because you can swap the order of them, as long as they're not causally connected. I mean, we don't know how time works at a very fundamental level, actually.
But time's arrow. I mean, I actually got my head around that a bit.
Yeah.
Because you don't need maths. If you think that everything's going forward and as it does, it decays.
Yes.
So then you understand entropy.
Yes.
I just look, for instance, all you need is an analogy to make that's pertinent to you. So in my case, all relationships. And then you realise, of course, you've got that perfect 18 months, and then they're dead.
The second law of sexual dynamics.
Yes, that's how I, according to me, that's how I extrapolate.
To make it statistically significant, though, you have to have an awful lot of relationships.
Oh, I do. I really do, and they really do all suffer from the law of entropy.